This satisfied Nilsen for almost a year, but in December 1979, he went to the Princess Louise in High Holborn. There he met Kenneth Ockenden, a 23-year-old tourist who was due to fly back to Canada the following day. Nilsen didn't want him to go. So, as Ockenden listened to music on these headphones, he was strangled with the cord. Nilsen took photos of the body before reluctantly getting rid of it. He was astonished to find that nobody suspected him. Over the next 20 months, he claimed to have killed at least 10 more young men. Nearly always he got them drunk, strangled them with a tie, took a bath with the body, and made love to it. The lights of Soho amusement arcades attract crowds of runaways and young male prostitutes. It was easy for Nilsen to pick up someone like Billy Sutherland, who had a girlfriend and a child in Scotland, but went with men for money. Sutherland's mother in Edinburgh reported that he had gone missing after travelling down to London to find work. But as there were 40 men on the list of missing persons with the same name, it was not surprising that one more Billy Sutherland would not easily be found in the big city. As far as Nilsen could remember, they went on a pub crawl round the West End, but he claimed that he didn't particularly fancy the 27-year-old Scotsman. He only took him home because Sutherland said he had nowhere to go. Nilsen could only remember that he had strangled him. In November 1980, Nilsen had a lucky escape. He had taken another victim home, got him drunk and tied him up. But this time the man, Douglas Stewart, woke up to find himself being throttled. He put up such a good fight that he escaped and ran away. He called the police, but they dismissed his accusation as a tiff between gay lovers, rejecting it as a domestic quarrel. The last person to die in Cricklewood was Malcolm Barlow, who had spent much of his life in hospital. Nilsen had found him slumped against his front wall and had called an ambulance. When Barlow was released from hospital, he came back to the house of the kind man who had looked after him. This time, he was strangled and stuffed under the kitchen sink. There was no more room under the floorboards. The police took Nilsen back to the house in Melrose Avenue and asked him to show them where and how he had disposed of the bodies. While a small army of policemen dug up every inch of the garden, he happily demonstrated to detectives how he had managed to get rid of all the other incriminating evidence. He told them how he had cut off the heads, removed the organs, and dissected the torsos. His butchery training came in useful. After dark, he put plastic bags containing the insides into a gap behind the fence, where they were soon eaten by scavenging animals. Then he had built a bonfire, on which he put the limbs from his flat, wrapped in pieces of carpet. He added suitcases of other human remains. Then he burnt the lot, with some old tires on top to disguise the smell. He made 3 bonfires in all. While the press crowded outside, Nilsen showed the police where he had found a skull still intact and smashed it with a rake into tiny pieces. Then he had carefully crushed those and other bones that wouldn't burn with a garden roller. To help with the search, the police had drafted in cadets, and a detective reported on their finds so far.
We found a small piece of jaw and some teeth attached to it in the rear garden of the premises at Melrose Avenue. And this morning I found a significant amount of property, in particular quite a large consignment of human bones, in particular a large piece of thigh bone in the region of about 6 inches.
He was asked if the bones would make identification easier.
I don't know, but obviously the more we find, it must assist the pathologist in his subsequent findings.
On the 12th of February, 1983, Dennis Nilsen was remanded in custody at Highgate Magistrates Court. He was sent to Brixton Prison as a Category A maximum security prisoner. This meant being confined to his cell except for half an hour's exercise each day. At first he was represented by a local solicitor, but he discharged him, preferring to speak up for himself. He appealed against wearing a prison uniform, and the magistrates were sympathetic. Nilsen claimed that his cooperative attitude should have earned him some privileges. When these weren't forthcoming, he refused to empty his slop bucket and got 56 days punishment for assaulting an officer. By now, Nilsen was detailing the murders in his second flat in Muswell Hill. On the top floor, it wasn't as handy for getting rid of bodies as the previous flat in Cricklewood, but Nilsen's landlord had given him £1,000 to move. When he had settled in, Nilsen once again started trawling the streets of Soho, looking for attractive young men that nobody would miss if they disappeared. It helped if they weren't too strong and well-nourished. He told of how he had chosen badly with one victim, John Howlett, a former guardsman. He was tough and fought back. When Nilsen discovered that Howlett was still breathing, he dragged him to the bath and drowned him. Then he cut up the body in the bath, threw away some of the larger bones, and flushed the heart and lungs down the lavatory. Finally, in this pot, now in Scotland Yard's Black Museum, he rendered down the head, hands, feet, and ribs. Later he recalled, "The most exciting part was when I lifted a body and carried it. It was an expression of my power to have control. The dangling elements of limp limbs was an expression of passivity. The more passive, the more powerful I was." But the end was near. He brought home 28-year-old Graham Allen from Glasgow and strangled him after cooking him an omelette. It was Allen's remains that eventually blocked the drains at Cranley Gardens and alerted the police. 5 months later, there was one more victim, Stephen Sinclair, seen here when a child. Another Scottish drifter, he had grown up in institutions, mental hospitals, and borstals. Sinclair never had a real home. By 1983, when he met Nilsen, he was a drug addict, begging for enough money to stay in cheap hostels. Killed only a few days before Nilsen was arrested,